Now, he said, "I never said that." He then went on to quote where he talked about the same 50-60% of GDP in a longer answer, but he left off the back half of that answer, which says, and I'll quote it for him now, because he did say it, quote, "We'd like over time to achieve this green line, but a ratio of debt to GDP at about 50 or 60% is a pretty good result looking around the world." So you bet he said it, but he didn't say it in the particular selective part that he chose to quote. You can understand a politician, though, getting a bit frustrated, because journalists, we never selectively quote politicians. It's a fundamental rule. You show the whole slab so that there can be no misunderstanding.
That's what we try to do at Sky News. But look. And what was interesting in the Prime Minister's press conference today was his view on the sort of debt level that trajectory would see us on, because at the moment Australia's debt to GDP ratio is about 15%. As we saw earlier, the Prime Minister's warned that on the previous policy trajectory we'd hit Greek levels of debt, but on that middle path that he's pointing to now, we'd see debt levels of around 50% of GDP. Is that okay? Have a look.
A ratio of debt to GDP at about 50 or 60% is a pretty good result looking around the world.
A pretty good result compared to the rest of the world. Debt levels of 50 to 60% of GDP. It is a very different tone to what we heard from Tony Abbott when he was opposition leader.
Debt as a percentage of GDP, which would have been 120% under the policies of the former government, is about 60% under the policies of this government. Now, that's too high. We want to get it in a much, much better situation than that. We'd like, over time, to achieve this green line, but a ratio of debt to GDP at about 50 or 60% is a pretty good result looking around the world. 120% is a dire result, and that's what we were going to have under the policies of the former government.